Welcome back to this week's episode of Thoroughly Entertained. This week, Chris and I went to the theaters and saw the new Adam Sandler comedy Grown Ups 2, and we also saw the Guillermo del Toro monster movie Pacific Rim. Please go to our website, thoroughlyentertained.com, and sign up for our summer movie guide so that you know what's happening every week at the theater.
In Grown Ups 2, Lenny has moved his family back to his childhood town, and on the last day before summer break, the guys discovered that there's a whole lot more for them to learn.
Alright, so this week we saw the new Adam Sandler comedy Grown Ups 2, and our question of the week is, what is your favorite Adam Sandler movie? Krista?
Mine would have to be Spanglish. It's sort of a dramatic piece for him, and I actually really like that movie.
Oh, I thought he was terrific in that movie. My favorite is I think his best film overall is Happy Gilmore.
Alright, so, Grown Ups 2.
I know you didn't like this. I mean, I didn't love it, but you liked it a lot less than I did. I knew that, so.
Yeah, this was just not my thing. Sometimes Adam Sandler can be charming and funny, and I like his humor. Most of the time, though, I just think it's far too juvenile, and it just does not strike me as very funny, and this was one of those movies. Grown Ups, the first movie, I actually laughed a whole lot more. This one, it was just a rehash of the same old juvenile, homophobic, misogynistic jokes, and I just couldn't find them funny, and it seemed far more campier than the first one, and that could just be me.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit more heart and warmth in the first movie for sure. I mean, centering it around the fact that they're all getting together for the funeral of kind of like, an important figure in their lives, this kid,
Right.
their coach. And because of that, I think there's a little bit more warmth because all the families are together, and you see the kids playing together a lot, and so I think this movie's missing that. But I will say that one of the reasons I do find it funny is because I think that this is how, especially male friends who have known each other a long time, this is kind of how they are with each other, taking shots at each other, making jokes and jabs. I find that to be kind of a real depiction of what kind of male friendship is like.
No, and I don't have a problem. I mean, I have all brothers. I understand
Yeah.
how men relate and talk and laugh to each other. I just found that sometimes, it just went a little too far at times for me. I will say what I really did appreciate about the movie was their children and the decisions that the children make and the fact that they're generally kind, good kids. I liked that they were depicted that way and not as normal children and teenagers are often depicted in films.
Yeah, and while I did laugh plenty of times during this movie, I think they put more of the things that I didn't like about the first movie in it than more of the things that I did like. I think it could have used a little bit more warmth. I think it could have used a little bit more of the families being kind of all together, because I think that was the magic of the first film. But, I did laugh enough to give it a C+. I know your score is lower than mine this week, for sure. But again, C+ was the best I could do for Grown Ups 2.
Right, I could only give it a D because I just didn't really enjoy it all that much, and so I just thought it was tasteless, generally speaking.
Yeah, there were plenty of tasteless moments. In the new Guillermo del Toro movie Pacific Rim, monsters have risen up from the ocean floor to destroy mankind. But the humans have created a super weapon called the Jaeger that may be our last
Now
hope.
on to Pacific Rim. So Scott, what did you like about this movie?
I thought Guillermo del Toro did an amazing job of creating kind of these amazing monsters and the Jaegers, the robots. I thought that stuff was brilliantly executed. And because Guillermo del Toro is such a huge fan of this type of movie, he loved the Godzilla movies when he was a kid.
Right.
He'd always wanted to make a movie like this. You can see his passion for the film
Right.
in all of the amazing detail work that he does. But, I found some of the same flaws in it that you found.
Well, and I will agree, I thought it was more inventive, and it was definitely more interesting than I was anticipating that it would be, and I enjoyed my experience more than I'd expected. However, and if I was comparing it, the closest movie I could compare it to would be like a Transformers movie,
Right.
but this is like the serious, very serious version. It does
Yes.
not, Transformers is campy and has way more humor in it than Pacific Rim, and
Right.
I liked this more than the Transformers movie because at least it stuck to a theme the whole way through, even though I found action after action after action, and I'm like, where's my story? Where's the heart? That's what I was missing.
Yeah, they don't really humanize any of the characters because there just isn't time. I mean, the fight sequences are big. They take up a lot of the movie,
Right.
so there just really isn't that much time for the overflow of, establishing who a character is, what his motivations are. They do that a little bit with Charlie Hunnam's character of Raleigh Beckett at the very beginning when you see his brother get killed in combat against the kaiju. The monsters are called the kaijus. And you see it a little bit with Rinko Kikuchi's character. They show a flashback of her as a small child, seeing her city get destroyed by a kaiju, and then she gets rescued by Idris Elba's character. But aside from those two scenes, there is really no emotional depth to the film whatsoever. Like, you don't care about anybody in this movie other than get into the robot, punch the monster in the face.
Well, and that's what makes it hard. And so it's not as suspenseful as it could have been, because people are going to die, but because you don't know much about them, oh well, they die, right?
Yeah.
And so
there's not much emotional stakes.
Right. And so, of course you're rooting for the Jaegers and the Rangers to be successful, just because you don't want humanity entirely eviscerated, but I want more from my stories. Like, give me more. Like, your audience is intelligent enough to cut back a little on the action sequences so that we care about what's going on. I mean, they've just greenlit for a sequel to this movie, and I'm not going to rush out and see it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and my only hope was, if they do a sequel, that they're able to look at this film critically and say, okay, these are the things that we're missing, and we can add these things to a new film, and maybe take a step forward by using this film as a stepping stone to something better. But overall, I thought this was just good and not great, and I was hoping for great because I had anticipated this movie so strongly that I was hoping for great, and I only got good. So I gave it a B-.
I gave it a C- because I just thought there just wasn't much to it. Literally within the first 3 minutes, they summed up the entire story.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie was just showing how the two different characters, the kaiju and the Jaegers, battled each other.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So it could have used a little bit more rounding out of the story, and hopefully, if they're making a sequel, Guillermo del Toro realizes that and gives us some characters we can be cheering for. So we're cheering for the characters, not the machines.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Thoroughly Entertained. Next week we'll be watching Red 2 and R.I.P.D. As always, go to our website at thoroughlyentertained.com, check out our summer movie guide so that you know what's happening every week at the theater, and join us next week on our quest to be thoroughly entertained.